Well, hello everybody. Glad you could make it to my channel one more time. Anyway, while I'm thinking about it, go ahead and hit just down below right over here. There's a subscribe button. When you pop that button, you'll notice a bell. Go ahead and hit it. It's free. Anyway, today I'm going to show you, I think I have about 8 vintage, antique, however you want to call it, kitchen clocks. And I think I'm going to show them to you. My other computer died, and so I can't get the pictures off, but most of these possibly refinished because they look so bad. They look like they were left out in a barn. The barn flooded and the water went away, and then they found this clock and sold it. Well, obviously I got cheap enough. I was able to clean the works. I refinished the case, and oh my lord, how it popped out compared to what it used to look like. I wish I could get those pictures back, and maybe someday I'm going to bring the old computer in and see if we can get that off the hard drive, and I'll show the pictures then. But for now, let me show you the clocks I have. Okay, this is the first clock I'm going to show you. I did not refinish this. I will admit I bought it at a thrift store. I didn't do too much change to it. For some reason someone stuffed this piece of metal in here and it doesn't go all the way through, so I don't know why they stuffed it in there, but I'm not taking it out. I'm leaving it the way it is. I also like this clock because you notice the red roses that are on here. It's very unusual to find color on these clocks. They're usually silver or gold, the decal that's in there, or it could be a painting, but most of them are decals. And also this door has this built right onto the door, so when you open it up, it moves right along with it. And it has this pendulum here, which, looking online, these pendulums are not cheap. If you had to buy another one with that little medallion in there. And I can't remember what the name of this clock is, the brand name, and I don't see it on the dial. Back when I first got it, I knew exactly what it was, but I'm not going to go online. You can check them out yourself. But usually the ones that have these medallions in them, they're all the same name. And of course this hooks up in there. It does have I did clean the works. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I have a long pin in here that needs to be cut off. I had to replace the spring arm, what do they call that, this hooks onto, which I have it off right now because I'm moving it around. I want it to be banging around inside the clock. And it does have the alarm with this clock, and it also has the gong, which is quieter than that when you have the door shut, obviously. Like I say, this is a very nice clock. Hasn't been refinished. Has a little bit of carving in here. Well, of course, a little carving up there. What's surprising about this clock also is none of this is broke off. Most people, they knock their clock over. Maybe kids are in there, I don't know. But usually these things get knocked off. Maybe it's when they get thrown out in the barn or the garage or whatever. But still, these are very nice clocks. And this one works quite well. So let me go get the next clock. Okay, this next clock here that's in my collection, I had to refinish this one. Believe it or not, it almost looked like it was painted. Let me show you before I show you the front of it. When I refinish these things, I don't remove these anything that tells about the clock or the history or whatever. What I'd normally do is they're just glued on paper. I normally go ahead and give it a coat of sealer that I put on the clock just to preserve it so it stays on here. It is an 8-day, half-hour strike, it says on there. And I don't have my glasses on, but I'm sure here it tells about the clock, maybe tells you how to set it. Here again, here we have the gold decal inside. This here is just a single door. It does have just a single pendulum, the bob, very short. It has a arm on here that this hooks onto. I can get it on there real quick. There we go. And this has a different type of gong in it. It's more of a solid gong, so it has actually a little more pleasant sound to it, not a real tinny one. So just because of that, I'd say possibly this clock was a little more valuable to people. It does have the alarm in there too. It's way in there, so it'd probably be a little difficult to set, but normally you don't want to listen to that thing ring. Let me see if I can flick the bell. No. This one here is a little bit better design that's in here for the way it strikes and hits the bell, so it probably is a little more pleasant, but obviously you don't want to wake up to this thing, I'm sure, just like most of them. And other details, it has these medallions on here, I guess we'll call it. These are metal. Before I ever finished the clock, it was so bad it blended in. I thought this was maybe a wood carving that was in with the head of the clock or the sides. And after I started stripping it, I discovered these were metal, and as far as I'm concerned, that was a great find. I don't know if you also noticed, which I don't normally want to change them or anything else, but on the dial here, there's a water stain here. That kind of gives you a hint of what this clock might have gone through after someone decided they didn't want it in their house anymore. And usually I'll pick these clocks up cheap because no one took care of them, and the people that have them now they don't care about grandma or great grandma or whatever. They just want to make some bucks off of it. So that's why I buy them cheap, and then I refinish them to bring them back to their glory, and it makes me happy to see what I can turn them back into. Like I say, it's so nice to see the decal or the metal pieces that are on here. And of course the bottom of the clock, it just has normal feet with a little space down here. Okay, let's go grab one more out of my collection. Okay, this clock here has a little bit of history to it, but first there's the pendulum. And I don't know how well it's picking up. Let me bring this clock a little closer. Look at the decal on here. Try to get rid of all the reflection. It's a snail. And a little history about this one. I guess when I was I must have been in kindergarten maybe. I don't even know if I was in kindergarten yet. Happened to find this real cool marble and I flicked it across the room. I shattered the glass in my dad's clock. Now, when I say shattered, I actually just broke it. And my dad, what he did is he carefully took it and I guess he taped it all together, as I remember. I don't remember, but he had the pattern there. Well, after I got older, beyond teenager and whatnot, Dad was in the service and he is gone. So I took this that he had saved and I carved it out. I put it on a piece of glass, put a self-stick clear paper, what they call that, on there, and I carved out through that plastic paper stuff and was able to, the best I could, because it was hard to make it out, but the best I could, I got all this carved out, got the snail obviously in there, and peeled all those pieces that I cut out. All this that's gold right now. And I took some gold spray paint, I do believe, and I just gave it some good dustings, gave it a few coats, and it turned out pretty good. But let me tell you, that took some work to put that in there. Didn't take any work to break it out with the marble, but I got it fixed. And since then, Dad gave me the clock, I guess to keep those memories up here. But I'm not sure. I have a feeling, I'd have to ask him, but I have a feeling this has been refinished. I know this was broke off at one time, as you can see right up here. There's a glue mark, and back in them days, they didn't have the greatest glue, I guess we'll say, and it's on there. As long as it's far enough back, you don't see it. I'm not about to refinish it because the clock is still in good shape. That doesn't bother me seeing that, but you need to be kind of closer to it to see that defect, we'll call it, in it, the glue mark. Other than that, the clock has nothing left on the back. Oh, and I wanted to point out, which I don't know if this one here is original or not. I know that's not, but that he put in a hook for a key, which is kind of nice. Instead of throwing it down below. But this back plate, which is wood inside the clock, some of them are natural finish, but most of them are black. And when I refinish a clock, out that backboard, I normally paint it with a chalkboard paint because I don't want it shiny. I just want it dark in there so it shows the gong. This one also has the alarm in it. But it shows all that off a lot better. And with a black background, sometimes it helps the decal stand out compared to if that has a light color back there, this here might not stand out as well. But this here is, again, a very nice clock. So let's go to the next one. Okay, here's my next one. Now this one I haven't finished yet. Now I did refinish this case. It was black. You couldn't even tell there was any detail in here. This one looked like originally it was left out in the barn and all the finish that was on there must have been crackled up. And who knows, maybe it had algae growing on it. I don't know. All I know is this was pretty much, you could tell there's something, but you couldn't tell what it was. And on the face here, let me get this a little closer. I don't know if you can tell or not, but there's right there's a little bird. And it looks like a nest up there, and the weeds, a little cottage. This almost looks Japan looking because it's got this picket looking fence that's around on there. I'm trying to get it so that all the reflection in here doesn't hit it. I'm trying my best here. But just the same, look at the detail that's on this clock. It's not bad at all. And another unique thing about this clock, like I said, I haven't finished it. I have the face all in the drawer ready to put this together. This here fits on there. the pendulum, because of where this thing must have sat, it's got what I consider quite a bit of damage on it. There's a little girl with a bow or a rose in her hair, and I'll bring it close, but I'm not sure that you can see it. I could buy another one online that someone's selling, but good Lord, I'm not paying $100. I don't know if you can see that girl or not, but it's a very unique piece. And it ticks right on in there. So, okay, I got another one. Give me a second. Okay, on this clock I had to refinish, and again we're missing pieces for this clock, so I had to make them. Usually on some of these clocks that are missing pieces, I try to go online and look at other old clocks, try to find one anywhere close to the ones I have, and some of them you just don't see online to have an idea. So on this one here, I had to make this piece here, and I think I had to make 2 of these, or maybe all 3 of them. But on this clock also, if you were to take a saw, you'd nick the top of this, cut this whole thing off and cut this off, and that's what this clock looked like. So I had to make pieces to fit on here, and of course I didn't have the same wood. Now most of these clocks were made out of oak, possibly because that's what they had in the area that they built these clocks. And their oak and the oak that we have here in Washington are totally 2 different kinds. There's a red oak and a white oak. So I had to manipulate it a little bit with stain. So just to show you, if you really look close, you can tell. But otherwise, the clock's basically back together again. Has the nice decal on here. Oh, let's see. On the back here, it's hardly readable, but it's on there. And like I say, I didn't want to lose it, so I put the finish on it to get it to go to stay, not disappear on us. This here also has the alarm. You can see how old that face is. Like I say, a lot of these clocks I get came out of the barn. In fact, that one I think came out off the Titanic just recently. That's how bad it was on the finish. But it does have the nice gong in there. Alarm. Very nice clock. So, oh, I forgot to show you the pendulum it happens to have. Now this, I don't think belongs to the clock, but it works. And if you know anything about clocks or don't, this screws one way or the other. That's how you change the speed of your clock, if it's going too fast or too slow. If you need to speed up your clock, you screw this around and up, and that makes the pendulum tick just a little bit faster. Or if the clock's going too fast, you unscrew it down. And depending how far off your clock is, I'd suggest only turn this a half a turn each time until you hit the right speed you're looking for. That's just metal, a weight inside the bob. Okay. Yes, I have more. Just a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, this clock here is, I haven't done anything with it. It does have a, this one actually had a nut that held these hands on. And I haven't done, like I said, I haven't done nothing with this one. I just bought it the way it was. It still has a dark stain on it, but the finish looks very good on this. Just needs a little bit of cleanup. The pendulum is nice. And this one here for the decal has a butterfly. Get these lights off here. Right there's a butterfly and looks like some kind of flowers. And this here is just a fancy decoration, including these corners too. So the main scene is this pot that has the flowers on and has the butterfly on there. Then down below here, it's kind of that basket weave look to it. This doesn't look bad at all. So the clock looks a little bit dry with a cleaning. On the back side you can see the decals missing. To tell anything about the clock, which in so many words I think is sad, because that's another cool feature of these clocks, is all of them came with it, and that helps show how old it is, or give you the feeling of it at least. And also this clock here, I don't understand. I'm going to guess that whoever had this clock, their house was slowly rotting to the ground. That's the only thing I can come up with, or they're a terrible carpenter when they built the house. The back of the clock, actually, on both sides, let me get this up here so you can see maybe. You see that, how much of it's missing on the back? This clock, instead of standing up straight, tips back, because the two back corners, it's like they've been sanded off so the clock will lean, and that's not good for the clock on a level surface all the way around, because then the pendulum is going to slide back too, and possibly up where the works are, it'll start hitting things. It needs to be good and straight to operate right. Now that might have worked for them because the clock was level in their crooked house, I don't know. But evidently the house must have went. They got rid of the clock. And I'm happy for that. Such a beautiful clock. Okay, let's check out another one. I think I forgot to show you the pendulum. That looks like a bell tower, so whether that would be a church or some other country, I have no idea. You decide for yourself. Okay. Okay, again, here's another clock. You could not see any of this. It was black, and the finish was kind of like bubbling up, almost like it was in a fire, but that was just aging from sitting out in the moisture for so long. So maybe this one came off the Titanic also. So here, now this pendulum looks just like the one I just showed you. but this one is what I guess I call patinaed a bit. And you can see how moldy this paper is, showing obviously it's age and not taken care of very well. And it's got the, won't do it now because it's not, I'm not winding it, but it's got the alarm. This here was nice and evidently cleaned up in the clock cleaner. So it's got a nice shine to it. You can see how much detail is in this all the way around. Let me get it closer. Should have done this with the rest of them. In the bottom, all around the door, and which I thought was odd, but you see, oh, that's one hand. You see how this has got detail all the way around on the back side, which is very unusual. I've never seen that on the clocks. And of course, paper's not here either. And like I say, as much damage as this clock had, I can understand why it doesn't have the paper. Say, pretty much all these clocks I've cleaned. See, I feel that. I think it's on. But this one needs to be adjusted because it's ticking, but it's not straight. Oh, maybe it is. There it goes. Okay. Let's check out another one. Yes, another one. Okay, this is my last clock. Well, of the kitchen clock styles. This one here, I was able to get at a garage sale. It didn't have the works in it, or I should say the works that were in it, I know didn't belong to the clock. And I'm not too sure that this face belonged because, well, number one, it's the wrong type of plywood, and they didn't really use plywood back in them days, but it does fit up in there. Fits right up in there. And so I need to measure to get the proper pendulum, because the works that were in here, like I say, this pendulum don't fit that clock, and it's short. Even though they did have a extended arm that brought it down, it's just totally wrong for this clock. So like I say, this one's on hold, got it at a garage sale. It's longer than most of your kitchen clocks, which is a cool feature about this. It's got the nice space in here, makes it look like it ties into the headdress and out. Let me get this a little bit closer. So you can see how this comes up. Looks like it goes under here and pops out here. And of course you got, looks like flowers along the bottom, which that kind of puzzles me, making me think this might be a newer clock, but I don't believe too much about it being a newer clock. Maybe they're before their time. And there's the paper that's on the back of it. So even if I don't refinish this clock, more than likely I'll take that paper and I'll seal it into the back so it'll stay with the clock. And on this clock here, if you can see it, There's a peacock feather here. Otherwise, it's just a fancy decal all the way around. Like I say, another unique clock that's going to be in the works. Another nice thing about most of these clocks is the head hasn't been broke off, because they usually have this little triangle board here, we'll call it, and anything above it or even an inch down from it will very easily break off if you knock the clock just right. So I'm happy that most of my clocks haven't been broke yet. So I think that's the end of the video. I have way more clocks than this. That's all I have. I do believe are the kitchen clocks. But then again, I bet you if I go look in the other bedroom, I can find another one or two. But I'm not going to go there right now. So anyway, the weather's getting bad. And let me show you if my new gauge is working to show you the temperature and see if the wind speed's actually working yet. So it's 49 degrees here, and over here we have high winds right now. So it says it's 13 miles an hour. I don't have my glasses on, so I don't know if that's a 24 mile an hour peak or what, but I know it's really blowing out there. And of course it's Thursday, so that's telling you I'm right up with these videos dragging along. So this video will go out tomorrow and tells you the time, date, the barometer, I do believe, inside temperature in this room 64 degrees with 43% humidity, and that's actually a good place where you want your humidity anyway. It's 80% humidity outside right now, and showing the clouds are coming in, which I will admit I see the clouds blowing by with sun breaks, but I think it wants to rain really bad. So let's get on with this video or hang her up.